time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I love bringing you wonderful people from around the world who are here to help us think about how we age, sage, and live at this stage of life. So if you are too inspired to retire, you're going to really love hearing Andrea Putting talk about how to use your passion to create more meaning in your life. So today we're going to be talking about going beyond success, navigating the path to compassionate purpose and prosperity. So welcome, Andrea, from tomorrow. I love talking to people in Australia because it's a whole nother day there.
So it is. Thank you, Jeanette. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much. And so tell us where you are in Australia. Where are you located?
I live in Melbourne. It's kind of close to the Yarra Valley kind of area, and we're just heading into autumn, which is lovely.
Ah, nice. I'm currently in Florida. I'm actually from Canada, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm pathologically allergic to winter. So I run away at the beginning of every winter, or close to it as I can get, and I don't go back till it gets more civilized. So I'll be heading back in May. Because right now it's very cold there. And it's not here. It's very nice. So I love that it's winter there. It's spring going into summer here, and it's fall where you are.
Yes, and this is the best time of year in Melbourne, I think, is the weather's just kind of the nicest.
Nice. All right. Well, let me tell you all the official word about Andrea, and so you can get to know her. And then we're going to go into delve the behind the scenes info about her and really dive into this topic about how do we really dive into compassionate prosperity and how we use our purpose and how do we define ourselves as we age and make that difference that you're here to make. So Andrea Putting is a conscious entrepreneur and the founder of Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony. Her books, Compassionate Prosperity and Compassionate Purpose, blend social mission with a quest for deeper meaning. As a speaker and podcast host, she champions unity and story sharing impact. Andrea also founded Putting Words, empowering authors. Based in Melbourne, Australia, she treasures time with her grandchildren and delights in sharing chocolate and engaging conversations. I should have gone and got some chocolate before we started to talk. That would have been a great idea. Oh, well, that's okay. So that's kind of the official side of you, and there's probably more information on your website, but tell us a little bit about you that people wouldn't guess. What's something that might surprise people, that even those that know you?
Oh, that's a really tough question to think of. Do a deep dive into who I am and things that I've done in my life. There's a couple of things that come to mind because when you're just talking about chocolate and coffee day and one of the things is that I don't drink coffee. I do not like coffee. I do not like the smell of coffee, but it's coffee with inverted commas.
Exactly.
It's coffee.
Coffee, chocolate, conversations. Yes, I know.
Yeah, go and have a cuppa. But the other thing that just came to my mind was that when I was pregnant with my first child, I started my first business, which I kind of forget about. I've just completely forgot about it, to be honest, until you spoke about it. But I started my first business and I was making, we call wind cheaters. I don't know what they call them in America, but and with applique designs on them of Australian animals.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, they were actually really good, but they were very trendy at the time and they just would not make it into this era, I don't think. So it was an interesting little sideline that I did, and made a little bit of an income to help provide for those essential baby things.
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah.
said, I'd completely forgotten about the fact that I even did that.
Well, you know how they talk about, necessity is the mother of invention. For you, motherhood was the necessity to invent. So it's the spark for your entrepreneurialism. How long ago did you do that?
Now, my son will be 40 this year,
It was a
so
while back.
20
Well,
years ago.
I was going to say that, maybe it's come back around in fashion because they go through waves of retro, fashion. So who knows? Maybe those things might be really popular today because they are retro.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll make some for my grandchildren, see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. So you're passionate about purpose. We share that in common. Tell me a little bit about your journey and your purpose and how you got to be so passionate about purpose.
Purpose, yeah, it's an interesting thing to become passionate about. For me, I think just like everybody, we're just constantly searching for that purpose. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing in this world? What's next? Where can I where can I turn? And I think my life has kind of lended itself to that because of the situations that I found myself in. So I was an at-home mum well, I managed to be at home in a way with my children right through their schooling, which is a rare thing,
Mhm,
very rare thing, especially in these days. However, while they were going to school, I had to think about what my purpose was, what my passion was. And like I said, I got married young, had children young, so I hadn't really developed my own purpose beyond that until I was in my 30s, really,
mhm,
when I went back to college and studied naturopathy. So it was it's kind of that journey, and then going to and then finding it into the next place. What's my purpose now when I finish that? What's my purpose when I got bored of what I was doing? What's my purpose now? And just constantly having this, well, what's my purpose? What is it that is really going to fulfill this something inside me? It's a well, I must be I'm here for more than just sitting behind my desk and working. I'm here to do more than do what this particular job expects of me. There is something greater, something more important for me to be doing. And it's through that constant search that it became passionate. I became passionate about it, but then it then turns itself around that when I found things that I was passionate about, that I could follow that path, that purpose then became the passion
mm,
of understanding that when we are on purpose, then that passion lives
mm,
and continues to live within us. Whereas before it kept waning. It's kind of like, well, I'm passionate about this today. I'm going to do this.
mhm.
And then you lose your passion.
Right,
But
right.
if it's constantly on purpose, then the passion stays with that. It may change,
Mhm,
and it changes to a degree, but there is still that passion for that thing
mhm.
that it started with. The way you represent it, the way that it comes out in the world may change, but there's still that purpose, it's still that passion,
Right.
and it continues to live.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes people conflate the two. They think that passion is purpose, and I think they're quite different because I think my purpose endures. And there are times I'm passionate about it, and there's times that I'm less passionate about it, right? And there are other things I'm passionate about, but they may not be aligned with my purpose or excited about or interested in, or because I think sometimes interest and excitement and sometimes distraction can be labeled as passion. but that's not necessarily the deeper calling piece. So, what in your explorations, what do you define your purpose as? What do you call it? Your purpose, or what?
My purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my purposes is to help people find their purpose and passion.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely part of it. But beyond that, because I have to look at this, I have this question that I've always used in podcasting, and I use as kind of part of the methodology for finding your passion, finding what it
Mm-hmm.
is this question: if there was just one thing for you to fight for, what would that be?
Mm. Yep.
So that really helped me to define who I am and
Mm-hmm.
what was really important to me. When I first heard that question,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that came to my mind was the right for people to follow their own spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
That was what came to me. And now I look at it and I go, well, it's kind of an extension of when I looked at my values to go in deeper. That is the right for each person to be who they are and express themselves for who they are.
Mm.
So part of that is that spiritual expression, is we're able to do that. We're able to feel free and comfortable in expressing ourselves in the way that who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of hits deep into me. And so that that kind of goes through everything that I do, whether it's, well, that was when I then later on developed Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony. It was like, oh, aha, this was something that I had said. And that's why I kind of picked up on this question of how that follows. But that basic core of people having the right to express themselves and be who they are comes through from chocolate and coffee. It comes through from the social mission aspect. And it certainly comes through from my publishing business, because that's all about people expressing who they are and sharing that with the world. So it's something that at my core, and I use that to follow my purpose, and question everything goes back into that way. If that's not what it's about, then it's not me.
Right. Okay. Well, and in your books and in your talks, you talk about how to go beyond conventional success and delve into the concept of compassionate purpose. What does that mean to you? What does compassionate purpose mean versus purpose?
Yeah, it's a fine line. The difference, I believe, is having compassionate purpose is about having a purpose that, I want to say, that's outside of yourself, but it's still within you. It's within you, but it's not about you. It's about, what can I do to be of service to somebody else? How can I help somebody else? Now, there's a lot of scientific stuff and all that kind of thing about that and how that makes us feel. And I really focus a lot on how that makes us feel. That makes us feel successful and fulfilled when we help others.
Yeah.
The difference between, when you might say purpose, is that some people look at their purpose as, well, for some people, their day job. Let's term it that for the moment. But going off to work, earning money and bringing the money home and buying house, buying cars, having holidays, all are great things. However, they're not necessarily what brings us fulfillment. And I strongly believe is that when we have that compassionate purpose, when we find that purpose that drives us to make the difference that we all want to make,
Mhm.
then we have a compassionate purpose.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So what are some ways that you approach helping people clarify what their vision can be for their purpose-driven life or their purpose? How do you help them clarify what their purpose may be? Because I get lots of people who know, and it's interesting because I think we go through waves at different ages. Like I remember being 19 and being so um desperate to find my purpose. And, I struck out and traveled around North America for 2.5 years on my own, looking for my purpose and clarifying that. Because when we're teenagers, I think we are very intense about life. And then at various points, I've had that same question and in some ways quandary come up again and again and again. So what are some ways that you help people access their purpose at the stage that they're at right now?
So helping them to find their purpose, we start with it's really doing a deep dive into who we are and what we're all about. So looking at things like, we do look at your stories. What are those stories that, when you look at the ones that really stand out and mean something to you, and the people that have really impressed some value or something in your life that you've really resonated and you've carried through your life. So looking at that is really important, just to find to what defines you into who you are. And of course, we look at your values. What is the values that you carry with you? And to really explore what each one of those mean to you, and also then looking at that through through how that's come through your life as well.
Mhm.
But really understanding our values. And I actually found that didn't occur to me at any point until I was probably around 40 or more, to look at what my values were in life. Actually, I think I was over 40 when I did that.
Mhm.
No one had ever said to me, "What are your values and what does that mean to you?"
Yeah,
So knowing now
yeah.
and having that time to explore and develop, I can go, okay, these are my values. This is what's important to me. So then there is also our skills and our talents.
Mhm.
And when I say that, it's really interesting because I go, just write down all your skills, all your talents, all the things that you can do. Then cross out the things that you can do but don't bring you joy.
Mhm.
We only want the things that bring you pleasure in life.
Right.
So get rid of those, because one of my skills is some of the work I do on the computer. I had my first website way back last century in the dinosaur era of the internet, and I had to learn HTML. So I had to learn how to build a website right from scratch and all. And at some stage I go, you know what? I can do that, but I don't want to.
Yes,
It
exactly.
does not bring me joy. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So, we
especially because
cross out those things.
we develop a lot of skills over the years,
We
and
do.
just because we can doesn't mean we should. I had a version of my business for 8 years where I really specialized in working with high tech firms because I could kind of speak geek and translate that into the marketing and the business, strategy and so forth. And it paid very well and it was lucrative. And I had this nice narrow niche that was easy, but they weren't really my people. And and so I finally kind of walked away from that and started over because that wasn't where my heart was. It was where my skills were, but not my heart, not my passion, not my my purpose could be lived out with those people and into those that group, but it wasn't really my juice and my jam. So just because we can, and even if it looks like it pays well or there's high demand or something, doesn't mean we should. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely. And that's something we learn with our age, with our maturity.
Exactly. Um, and
Yeah.
and I think it's you mentioned, lots of people don't know their values. I think it's just this side of criminal that our education system falls down so much on people. People come out of school without knowing what their values are. What do they care about? What are their thoughts about spirituality? How do they handle their life, like practical things like budgeting and shopping? How do they um, think of, like entrepreneurial skills, because most of them will need to be entrepreneurial at some point in their life. I think it's very sad, but especially those inner conversations, like you said, you waited till you were 40, past 40 to have that conversation. That should be part of education, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's questions that I will, at some stage,
Yep.
my grandchildren are a little bit older, I'll have those kind of conversations with them and help them to think about what it is that's important to them before they decide what they're going to do with their lives.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
what is I think human beings are meaning making machines. We need to have meaning and we apply meaning to everything, and we need to be meaningful. Um, what is one of the or some of the benefits that you see that people gain from being clearer on their purpose? Because when we know what the meaning is of life or for us, I think people tend to do better. So what are some of the benefits that you see that come out of knowing your purpose?
It is about being able to make decisions from a place of strength. I think it's really centers us in knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it gives us a direction in life. And so when something comes to you and you can look at it and go, well, no, that's not going to take me where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps us with that kind of keeping us on focus, but it also does keep us in back to the passion word, passion, the purpose, the pleasure, the passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It keeps us in that stream of this is what's passionate. So it helps us to keep going. It gets us up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us a reason to keep going when things get tough. And things get tough, we're not going to whitewash that one,
Mm-hmm.
because things are always going to get tough at some stage. But it can help us to get back on the pathway. It's going, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't know, it's so many times I feel stuff coming to me from every direction, and and it's very easy to get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So easy to get distracted and the next bright shiny thing and think, oh, just maybe I should go and play over there. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, let's get back on this pathway. So for me, I just say it keeps focus,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps passion, and in that, it's going to help us to find that sense of fulfillment, that sense of success in our life that we need every day to keep us going.
Mm-hmm.
It and we're going to be more of an influence to those around us if we're doing that. We're going to have more influence on those that we meet, our family, our grandchildren. We're going to set an example for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we will leave a legacy that is worth us living day to day.
Yes. Well, so what are some examples of the changes that you've seen in people when they go from not being clear on that to really centering their life on living into their purpose more directly, having a purpose driven life? What's some of the changes and benefits and examples that you've seen of that?
Some of the benefits with it are, I think I've just said about staying on purpose, but having that ability to then put everything else aside is really important, so that, for some people that means leaving their job and going on a new trajectory
Mm-hmm.
and finding that path. But so many people have been living with uncertainty in their life,
Mm-hmm.
and that lack of fulfillment. So, know a lot of people who were just kind of going from job to job because they're looking for that fulfillment. But once they have this center core of what my purpose is, even if they are in a job that isn't quite on track, they can still keep their life on focus in this direction and in a purposeful way.
Mm.
So, for example, I know someone who has done that. She goes from job to job going, this isn't right. This,
Mm.
6 months down the track is going, no, this isn't right. And off she goes looking for another job and looking for another job
Mhm.
until she finds that core of the values, the purpose, the passion that is at the drive of all of that.
Mhm.
Then she's able to stay in one job to find that job that is the most fulfilling for her, or to find that sideline of volunteering somewhere where they can just have that fulfillment. Now,
Mm.
I remember a few years back, I spoke to a friend who at the time he was 71, and he had just started working with a charity
Mhm.
and has raised a lot of money for charity. But at that point, he came to the recognition that for the first time in his life, he felt fulfilled,
Mm.
felt like he was doing something that made a difference. Now, I've known this person all my life, and I'm thinking, really? You've done all of these things. I've seen you do amazing things throughout your life, but it's only now you're finding fulfillment in life
Mhm.
when you only just feel like you're living on purpose. Oh, I felt that was really kind of sad. Great that you've done that, but sad that it's taken this long. And
Right.
I'd like to think that even if people aren't in that perfect job, in that perfect scenario where they can live their purpose, that volunteering or doing something along those lines can help them to fill that spot.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be something when you talk about volunteering, people go, oh no, I don't have time for that. It doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And I see, and I think that a lot of times people look for purpose in their job or in their in some role that they play as opposed to something that is inherent. I call it a thread that weaves through the tapestry of our life. So for me, my purpose is that I want you to get that you matter and live like you do. And the reason that matters to me is because I always wanted to get that I mattered. I wanted to be put on the list. Didn't even have to be the top of the list. I just wanted to get on the damn list. And so I, for me, that's what I see a lot of in the world is people not getting how much they matter. And so whether I'm doing personal development facilitation or working in a corporation as a manager or doing training or speaking on a podcast, it's all about that same central theme, and it gets expressed in different ways, but it's that's been the driver for me my whole life because it's been the longing for me my whole life as well. And so I think it's really valuable to find what is that longing, what is the intersection of that longing and that thing that matters to you. Some people might call it what are you exploring for God or for the universe, what's the lesson in this life. There's lots of different ways that we approach thinking about it. You mentioned a great question earlier. You said, if there's one thing you would fight for, what would it be? What would that be? Um, I think great questions are even better than great answers. So, are there any other questions that you use when you're helping your clients explore their purpose and direction and where they want to go or what's meaningful for them?
A couple of them I've already mentioned. It's well, what brings you pleasure is,
Yeah.
and there's things that we talk about bring you pleasure, but not necessarily what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
But there is many things that bring us pleasure in life, and that can be, for me, sitting down and having a conversation with someone that brings me a lot of pleasure and joy. So what are the things that bring you pleasure in life?
Yeah. And I
What are the things?
actually think that we can't find our purpose on any other path than the path of pleasure. I don't think we can find it in sacrifice or suffering, that that's not truly purpose. That may be obligation or shoulds or have tos or something like that. But so many people are cut off from their pleasure. They like, especially women. If I ask women, especially, older women, what brings you pleasure? I get the dog tilt head, where they kind of go, blurk. Um, I'm not sure. That's a tough question for a lot of women, a lot of people in general, but especially women.
Yeah, because they're used to living a life of sacrifice. A lot of women, me included,
Yeah.
are doing that constantly, and I have to pick myself up on that. I am naturally nurturer and carer, so I'm putting everybody else first constantly.
Hmm.
Constant. So now I need to go, well, okay, hang on a minute. I'm
Hmm.
going to take some time to myself
Yeah.
and do the things that bring me pleasure instead of doing the things that I have to do.
Yes. Yeah, I think
And
that's a real win-win, because if your cup's empty, you've got nothing to give from. So you have to.
that's right. We want the cup to be overflowing with love and joy for who we are and what we do and what we bring to the world.
Yes, absolutely. So so one of the questions you mentioned is what brings you pleasure? What are your values? Another great question. Uh, is there any other questions that really, or lines of inquiry that really helped you get clearer on your purpose and direction and where you wanted to focus?
Hmm. What we, yeah. It's really what is the most important thing to me at the end of my life? What is it that I want to leave behind?
Hmm.
Now, especially when you have grandchildren and you start to think about what is it that you want them to remember about me
Yeah.
in the future when the time comes, what is it that they will stand up in their funeral and my funeral and say,
Mhm.
my grandmother was.
Yes. Yeah. Or my mother, or my wife, or my friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
That conscious legacy, and kind of being really intentional about the legacy we want to leave. I often find it's instructive. I sometimes ask people, what do you get on a soapbox and rant about? Or what do you stand
Mm.
for and a stand against? Because often what we tend to be, pissed off or annoyed about is also a clue to our passion, to what bothers us. It's the flip side of what we do want. So I think that also really helps, is to take a look at, what do you rant about? And if you all are sitting there thinking, I don't rant, just go ask your friends and family. They'll tell you what you rant about.
Oh yeah, we all have our little pet subjects.
Yeah,
So what are those pet subjects that we're going to get irritated about that are
yeah,
just kind of.
exactly. So tell us a little bit about coffee, or chocolate and coffee day for religious harmony. What is it and why did you start it?
So Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony is about reaching out to someone who is different to you
Hmm.
and sharing in chocolate, coffee, and conversation.
Okay.
So what I do is encourage people just to do that. Just go to someone that you don't know very well, someone who's different to you in some way. While it starts with religious harmony, it doesn't have to be that. It can be culture, it can be ability, it can be just a difference of opinion. And
Hmm.
have a conversation, get to know somebody because in our differences, we are the same. And that helps us to break down the barriers that divide community.
Hmm.
So it's very simple. And people have often said to me, oh, I'll come to your event. And I go, no, I'm not having an event. You go and find someone and share chocolate and coffee with them.
Yes. Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
I can do events and I have done events which aren't for for chocolate and coffee day, but for other
Mhm,
times focused around chocolate and coffee, because I find that it is such a great metaphor for things, because everybody,
mhm,
no matter what their culture, wherever they come from, whatever they do, everyone is comfortable sitting down and having a cuppa with somebody
mhm,
and sharing something to eat. And chocolate opens us up. It's a great way. It's a great initiator
mhm.
of things, because it sets off all those wonderful endorphins that make us feel good and open us up.
Exactly. Well, and
So
it kind of reminds me of the friendship bench initiative that I came out of Zimbabwe, which is literally go sit on a bench and start chatting with someone and just have a conversation with them to
absolutely.
engage with humanity is really what it is.
Yeah,
So I love that, and I think you're right. Our culture does like to, have sit around, have a cup of something, right, together. So
absolutely.
what's your journey been like as a businesswoman? So, when did you start your business? Because you mentioned that you raised your kids and were at home most of that time. When did you start your business?
Ooh, which business?
Just for
So,
consideration, how many businesses have you had?
oh, phew.
Mhm,
Um, so said I went back to school, went to naturopathic college, and so I started a business after that, and that was 1997, 98. So I had that business for 7 years, lost my passion, went to work for somebody else, and then after that I went on the exploration of what's missing in business. So that took me on quite a journey. So really, oh, took me on a journey and a journey and a journey, wrote a book with somebody, and we were starting a business on that, on leadership. It was more on the compassionate leadership type model. And so when was that? That was about 7 years ago. And unfortunately, he passed away when we were just getting that started. So then I went on my own journey of social mission revolution and exploring what social mission means to people, because having chocolate and coffee day had changed me, had helped me to find my passion in life and my purpose.
mhm.
I went on the exploration of what social mission meant to people individually and in business.
And so
So
how do
that
you define
start
social mission? What do you define that as?
social mission is having a mission that is about compassion, compassionate purpose, compassionate prosperity. Yeah, I interchange the words. But
Mhm,
social mission can be having a being involved in volunteering. It can be starting a foundation. It could be supporting a charity. It could be having a social enterprise. It's about having a mission that is not about you, but it is about what you can give to the world and how you can make an impact. So sometimes they use the word social impact is a good phrase to understand that. But your mission is socially driven, not personally driven.
So you started this version of your business 7 years ago, is that right?
About 5 years ago. So, I went from the concept of business coaching into writing books and creating programs around employee engagement and leadership, and kind of back into social mission and chocolate and coffee. And so I pull them all together. And then last year I started a publishing business, because that's what you do.
Yes. Well, when you've been publishing your own book and then people come and say, "So how did you do that?" That
Yeah.
tends to be okay, let me teach you that.
Yeah.
So what's the thing that gives you the most joy in your business?
Oh, the most joy. I love speaking on stage. But I think chocolate and coffee, when I come back to it, chocolate and coffee always brings me the most joy, because that is foundational to who I am and what I'm about.
Mm-hmm.
because it is about sitting with someone and listening to them and showing them that they are a person of worth, that who they are is of value, and I'm recognizing that value in you right here and right now, and getting other people to do that for other people.
Yeah.
That is, I really think that's where my greatest passion and purpose comes from. And I do love being with the social mission field, and helping people to find that social mission, and helping the businesses to connect with what their social mission might be. It's exciting, it's fulfilling, it's just joy filled.
Awesome. All right. And what's one of the things you least like about being an entrepreneur?
Marketing.
Uh, a lot of people, especially subject matter experts and people who are kind of heart led or spiritually led, tend to really not like the sales and marketing side of the business. Um,
Yeah, it's just those things that you have to do, the everyday stuff. And when I go a week when that's all I've done, I just want to tear my hair out.
yeah.
It's like, why am I doing this? And I know that's what stopped me with my first business. It was that with my internet business, was that I was stuck doing that everyday thing, and I wasn't connecting with anybody because I was just stuck here behind my computer, literally in this room still. But I was just sitting here on my own, packing parcels, send them out. I was like, "Oh, no, I had enough of this."
Yeah, and that can get very lonely too, which is very hard on the
Yeah.
heart and the soul. So if you, I say it's never too late to reinvent yourself as long as you're breathing. It's never too late to follow your purpose. What would you say to people who are out there who might be in their 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s or beyond, who might be thinking it's too late? It's too late for me to, worry about my purpose. I don't have time to do anything about that left. What would you say to them?
It's definitely never too late. And what I find with my exploration of purpose and passion is sometimes it's just about them recognizing
Mm-hmm.
that is what their purpose is, and sometimes they're doing it. But being able to recognize it then gives them that emphasis that this is something that I can continue doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was writing my book, Compassionate Purpose, I came to the end of the book. I didn't have a finale. I didn't have that conclusion. I didn't know what to write. So what I did was I went and spoke to my mother. And so she was 84 at the time.
Mm.
Anyway, so she was quite elderly, and she started to use a walker. Her mind wasn't as clear as it used to be, and she had has a lot of health issues.
Mm-hmm.
But so I went and I spoke to her, and I asked her what was important.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, being kind. So
Mm.
she started to talk to me about what that means to her and how she reflects that in her life.
Mm-hmm.
That she was making a point of, when she would go out, she would stop and talk to people. If
Mm-hmm.
she felt that somebody needed someone to talk to, she would stop and talk to them.
Mm.
And to her, it was all about being kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell, even now, she's 86, and she does have some dementia, and we've had to put her into a home, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I know when she is doing her social mission of
Mm.
going and talking to people, because she is happier.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
she sits in her room and does nothing, she's miserable.
Yeah.
When she goes out and looks around and sees that somebody needs
Yes.
someone to talk to at that particular moment, she is so much better in
Yeah.
her mind. She's a lot clearer. She's a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't think it's ever too late to discover what that purpose and passion is. And to some degree, you're already going to be living it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just recognizing what that is and being able to go, well, this is what I do. All right, so today I'm going to go out and speak to somebody and be kind,
Yes.
or whatever that is. So, an example in my book, that in my podcast that I've used quite a bit, is that for one person it was about, or they had property, they had a piece of land, and they could, small bit of land, so they grew a whole lot of flowers, and they would cut the flowers and take them to a hospital.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So just thinking about it and going, well, what is it that I can do at this time in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that is, it is perfect and beautiful, and it makes a difference. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be a great grandiose
Yes.
thing. It can be
Yeah.
in those little things.
Exactly. And purpose can be expressed in a smile as much as it can in some big campaign or fundraising thing. It's living into that in a daily way. So speaking of your books, you have a gift for the listeners. So what is that?
Yes, so if they'd like to go along to my website, www.andreaputting.com.au/compassionate, they can grab a first two chapters of my book, Compassionate Purpose.
Awesome. Now, is it compassion or compassionate? Because I've got
Compassionate.
compassionate. Okay. Because on the
Compassionate.
URL, it says compassion. So I should change that to compassionate. Yeah. Okay. I will change that. Okay, and so you can go and download the first couple of chapters of her book, which I think is wonderful and a very nice gift. Thank you. And how do people find you if they want more information?
So they can go along to my website, like I said, andreaputting.com.au. And you can just Google me, because I'm the only Andrea Putting in the world. So you will find me very easily on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. There I am.
Wow, that's very handy. Not very common either.
No.
That's the case. So that's awesome. Okay, and so what's one or two final thoughts or words that you'd like to leave everyone with on this topic? What's something that you'd like them to take away?
The thing that I always like to say and leave with people is that when you touch one person's life, you change the world.
Mm,
You change it for yourself, you change it for the person you've touched their life, and
mhm,
you change it for everyone in their life. It ripples out in time and space and makes such a big difference. So one person's life is changed, their world is changed,
mm.
that world is changed. So just touch one person's life today.
Mm. Thank you for that. Thank you for your commitment to really supporting people in having deeper conversations, Andrea, and to really stop and think about how do we create more meaning in our life? How do we use our next 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years in a way that's very intentional, that supports others and supports us? I think that that's a fascinating and important conversation. Part of the reason I'm so passionate about maturepreneur world and building that out is that I think that there are too many people who do not have that sense of meaning or are not sure how they can contribute. And when we do not feel valuable, then that's the loss of a huge resource. And we can't afford to have all those people feeling, loss or like they don't have value anymore, because it's simply not true. If you're on this side of the dirt, you can contribute, you can make a difference, and you can touch someone's heart because you matter. And I personally want you to live like you do so that all of us are part of this greater solution and making the difference that I call it being the difference that only you can be in the world. Because no one else has your unique combination of experience and skills and heart and intention and reason behind why they do what they do. So thank you for being one of those people having this conversation, Andrea. ladies and gentlemen, please do reach out and get support in clarifying what this is, because often our purpose is right on the end of our nose. We can't see it. It's like water to the fish. And so it's not something that's easy for us to articulate ourselves, but it is for those that are in the listening of you, that hear the themes that run through your life, through your longing. I call it listening for the longing, and what the healing is that's needed. But we each have different approaches to this. In our listening, you can often get the clarity that you need, because it's a backdrop that you can see what's up for you, what's meaningful for you against that backdrop. So much easier than trying to do it on your own. So reach out, get help, reach out to a coach like Andrea, like myself. And, now that we live in this global world, it doesn't matter if she's in Australia. You just got to find a time that she's awake when you're awake. So reach out and get support in really clarifying this. There's so much juice and power and clarity, focus, like you said, direction, and significance that comes out of really identifying who are we, why are we here, and what are we going to do to have fun for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it may be for you. So thank you again for being here, Andrea. I appreciate you, and have a bodacious week, my friends. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away, so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.